Were you taught that driving your car gently is the best way to make the engine last longer? Well, you were taught wrong. Walk into any independent shop and ask the mechanic which engines come in sludged up, carboned over, and burning oil, and he won't point at the ones that got driven hard. He'll point at the babied ones. In fact, a pampered 60,000-mile grocery getter is often dirtier inside than a 200,000-mile highway car. Today, I'm giving you 7 reasons why driving your car hard actually helps it live longer. Starting with number 7, your engine is built to clean itself, but most people never let it. The biggest mistake most drivers make isn't skipping oil changes. It's never giving the engine the actual conditions it needs to clean itself. Think about it. If your car spends most of its life doing 5 or 10-minute errands, you're probably shutting it off before that cleaning process even begins. And the scary part is, nothing feels wrong. The car starts. It runs. The check engine light stays off. Meanwhile, contamination just keeps piling up where you can't see it. Here's why. Your dashboard says the engine is warm after just a few minutes, right? But that gauge isn't measuring your oil. It's measuring coolant. And coolant heats up much faster. Oil can take twice as long to reach its real operating temperature, which means most short trips end before it ever gets there. Why does that matter? Because your oil isn't just a lubricant, it's a chemical cleaning system. It's packed with detergents and dispersants designed to grab soot, carbon, and other contaminants and keep them suspended until the filter or your next oil change removes them. But guess what? Those additives don't work properly until the oil is fully hot. Until then, they're like a cleaning crew waiting outside a locked building. Imagine hiring a cleaning company to clean your house, then never unlocking the front door. The crew shows up every day, all the equipment is there, but nothing ever gets cleaned. That's basically what's happening inside your engine every time you shut it off before the oil gets properly hot. And there's something else building up while they're waiting. Every single cold start creates water vapor as a natural byproduct of combustion. Some of that moisture slips past the piston rings and ends up right in the oil. If the oil never gets hot enough to boil it away, that water simply stays there, slowly turning the oil acidic from the inside out. A proper highway drive changes everything. Hold the engine at operating temperature for 20 or 30 minutes and the water evaporates. The additives wake up and your oil finally starts doing the job you already paid for. But moisture isn't the biggest thing hiding in your oil. If you drive almost any modern engine built in the last decade, something even worse is probably mixing with it every single morning. Number 6. Every cold start is secretly mixing gasoline into your oil. Most people think engine oil only gets dirty. But the truth is, modern engines can actually dilute it. If you've got a direct injection engine, and honestly, chances are you do, every single cold start sprays fuel into a cold combustion chamber. Some of that gasoline doesn't burn. Instead, it washes down the cylinder walls, slips past the piston rings, and drips straight into your oil pan. Mechanics call it fuel dilution. The worst part? Changing your oil doesn't stop it from happening again tomorrow. If your driving consists of one short trip after another, fresh gasoline just keeps accumulating faster than the engine can get rid of it. Imagine checking your oil one weekend and realizing the level is actually higher than it was a month ago. Most people smile. Great, my engine isn't using oil. But mechanics see that dipstick climb and immediately get nervous. Oil doesn't magically multiply. Something else is filling the crankcase. And in thousands of modern engines, it's gasoline. Gasoline thins the oil that engineers carefully designed to protect your bearings, camshafts, and timing components. Imagine replacing your sunscreen with water. That's essentially what you're asking your engine to survive on. That's why simply changing your oil earlier isn't a complete solution. Fresh oil can only protect what's inside the crankcase today. If every drive ends before the engine reaches full temperature, tomorrow the dilution process simply starts all over again. The fix isn't another bottle of additive. It's heat. Once the oil finally reaches full operating temperature and actually stays there, that trapped gasoline begins evaporating back out through the PCV system, leaving the oil much closer to the viscosity it was designed to have. So, yes, driving the car hard cleans the oil. But the next problem doesn't just contaminate the oil, it starts locking moving parts inside the engine itself. Number 5. How perfectly good engines become oil burners. Ask a mechanic why a modern engine suddenly starts burning a quart of oil every 1,000 miles, and plenty of them won't tell you the engine wore out. They'll tell you the piston rings got stuck. Those rings are supposed to float completely freely inside tiny grooves around each piston. Every single second you're driving, they're flexing against the cylinder wall, sealing in compression and scraping excess oil right back where it belongs. But engines that spend their entire lives gently cruising around town, they slowly build up soft carbon inside those grooves. Over time, those deposits harden until the rings just stop moving altogether. That's exactly when perfectly healthy engines begin acting completely worn out. This is one of the most frustrating diagnoses mechanics see because the symptoms fool almost everyone. The owner thinks the engine is simply old. Maybe it got a bad design. Maybe the manufacturer cheaped out. Sometimes none of those things are true. Sometimes the engine itself is perfectly healthy. It's the carbon quietly locking everything together that's stealing the performance. Compression starts leaking away, oil slips right past the rings and gets burned, and owners end up blaming the company. Some people even replace the entire engine. But in so many cases, the metal wasn't even the problem. The carbon was. This is where hard acceleration becomes surprisingly valuable. Wide open throttle dramatically increases cylinder pressure. That pressure pushes the piston rings firmly against the cylinder walls, forcing them to flex through their full range of motion. At the same time, all that extra combustion heat burns away those soft deposits before they ever have a chance to harden into cement. Think of it like bending a stiff hinge before rust locks it solid. Skip that workout for years, and those rings will slowly freeze in place. And here's what's really scary. Stuck piston rings mostly just cost you oil. But the next thing gentle driving destroys, that can cost you thousands of dollars to replace. Number 4, it saves your catalytic converter from a slow death. Here's the thing. Your catalytic converter only works when it is absolutely roasting. If I asked mechanics which expensive repair more people could avoid with one simple habit, a clogged catalytic converter would probably make the shortlist. The problem is that by the time the warning light finally comes on, the damage has usually been building for years, and almost nobody connects it to nothing more than endless short trips. We are talking around 800 degrees Fahrenheit before the chemistry inside even lights off. On a short trip, that cat spends most of the drive way below that threshold, which means unburned fuel and nasty soot are flowing right into it and sticking instead of burning off. Do that every single day, and the honeycomb inside gradually glazes over and clogs up. And now, just watch how the bill grows. First, it is a check engine light and an oxygen sensor diagnosis. Call it a couple $100s, but then the code comes back. And the real culprit turns out to be catalyst efficiency. On plenty of modern cars, that is easily a $1,500 to $2,500 part. And it gets worse. If you keep driving on a badly clogged cat, the trapped exhaust back pressure superheats, and it can actually start cooking the engine that feeds it. You see, you did not skip those highway drives for free. You just put the savings toward the most expensive filter on your car. Sustained high-speed driving is the cat's ultimate self-cleaning cycle. Exhaust temperatures climb hundreds of degrees above that light-off point, plenty hot enough to burn accumulated soot and fuel residue right out of the honeycomb. Diesel owners already know all about this ritual because their trucks literally force a regeneration cycle. Well, gas engines get that exact same benefit the old-fashioned way. You just have to drive them like you mean it. And guess what? That same cleansing fire reaches one more place, the exact place where this whole legend started. Number 3, the Italian tune-up is real. It burns the carbon out. Old mechanics have a famous name for a long, aggressive, high RPM drive, the Italian tune-up. The reason it earned that name is almost legendary. A customer would limp into the shop convinced the engine needed expensive repairs. Instead of grabbing a wrench, the mechanic would grab the keys. 20 or 30 minutes later, he'd come back from a spirited highway drive, hand the keys back, and suddenly the idle was smoother, the throttle felt sharper, and the engine seemed to wake up. To the customer, it looked like magic. To the mechanic, it was simply an engine finally getting hot enough to clean itself the way it was designed to. The old joke was that Italians drive flat out everywhere, and their engines stayed perfectly clean because of it. A sluggish, sputtering car comes into the shop, the mechanic takes it out, runs it absolutely hard through the gears for half an hour, and it comes back running noticeably better. It sounds like folklore, right? But it is not. It is pure chemistry. See, carbon deposits form on the piston crowns and combustion chamber walls when fuel burns incompletely at low temperatures, which is exactly what puttering around town produces. Those deposits then cause real frustrating problems. They create hot spots that trigger engine knock, they raise compression unevenly, and they completely choke the precise airflow that modern engines are calibrated for. Run the engine hard, though, and those combustion chamber temperatures climb high enough to literally oxidize those deposits. The stubborn carbon that low-speed driving caked on gets burned right off and blown straight out the exhaust. On top of all that heat, high RPM operation moves enormously more air through the engine. scouring out passages that barely see any flow at all at 2,000 RPM. Now, one honest caveat here. On direct injection engines, the backs of the intake valves do not get washed by fuel, so highway pulls cannot scrub that one specific spot. But everything downstream, the chambers, the pistons, the exhaust, they all still get the full glorious cleansing burn. So, yes, heat and load clean the parts that combustion touches. But reason number 2, it is all about the parts that combustion never touches at all. And they fail for the exact opposite reason. They never get used. Number 2, it works the parts that go unused when you sit still. Here is the thing. A modern engine is absolutely covered in components that only operate under a real load. If you drive gently forever, entire systems on your car will go their whole lives without ever once doing their actual job. Think about your own body for a second. If you never fully straighten your knees, never raise your arms overhead, and never bend your back, those joints eventually become stiff. Machinery isn't identical to the human body, but it's surprisingly similar in one important way. Parts that never travel through their full range slowly forget how. Take your variable valve timing system. It only swings through its full range when you demand real power. Your EGR valve cycles hardest under load too, and an EGR that rarely moves is an EGR, just packing itself with soot until it sticks. On some cars, that is easily a $400 repair for a part that literally failed from pure boredom. And if you have got a turbo, oh, it is even worse. Wastegates and variable vanes that never see full boost will carbon up and seize completely. And turbo oil passages coke up when the unit never runs hot enough to keep those deposits moving. Even your throttle body, your injectors, your fuel pump, all of them have a wide operating range, but town driving uses maybe the bottom third of it. Mechanics see the result of this constantly. The failure here isn't wear, it is total atrophy. A part that never moves is a part quietly learning how to stick. A weekly hard run changes all of that. It sweeps every single one of those systems through its full range while everything is nice and hot. Valves cycle, actuators swing from stop to stop, boost builds and releases, and deposits get cleared out while they're still nice and soft. Think of it as range of motion therapy for machinery, which brings us right to number 1, because everything you just heard points to a single, shocking conclusion that most drivers have exactly backwards. Number 1, babying your engine is what's actually killing it. Here's the massive reframe the whole video has been building to. Think about how backwards this is. Millions of drivers genuinely believe they're protecting their engines every single day. They avoid RPM, they feather the throttle. They always choose the shortest trip. Every one of those habits feels responsible. Every one of them feels mechanical sympathy. Yet, over years of ownership, those exact habits often create the conditions that age the engine faster. That's the irony almost nobody talks about. Look, your engine was never fragile, not even close. The company that built it validated that exact design on dynamometers at sustained full load for hundreds of hours. At temperatures and RPM you'll never even touch on a public road. An 80-mile-per-hour highway cruise is just a light jog for a modern engine. Honestly, it's just loafing. What the engineers never designed for is the life most cars actually live. Cold start, drive 2 miles, shut down, and repeat. Forever. Every single one of those trips deposits carbon, dilutes the oil, loads up the cat, and leaves moisture behind. And the engine gets shut off before it can clean up any of it. The gentle driver isn't preserving the engine at all. They're actually starving it of the one thing that keeps it healthy: heat and load. Now, for the fine print, because driving fast done wrong will hurt your car. This is also where people completely misunderstand the advice in this video. Driving it hard doesn't mean abusing it. It doesn't mean bouncing off the rev limiter every morning or street racing to work. The secret isn't violence. It's waiting until the engine is fully warm, then actually letting it do the job it was engineered to do. Never, ever flog a cold engine. Give the oil 10 or 15 minutes of gentle driving to reach full temperature first, because absolutely everything in this video only works on a warm engine. Then, find a highway. Hold a real speed for 20 or 30 minutes and mix in a few honest full throttle pulls through the gears where it's legal. An on-ramp being the absolute classic spot. Once every week or two is plenty. That's it. That's the Italian tune-up done totally right. Warm it up, then work it hard. Your engine doesn't want a quiet retirement. It wants heat, load, and massive airflow, because that's the only real maintenance it can perform on itself. So, the next time someone tells you to take it easy on your car, just remember what the inside of a babied engine actually looks like. Then, take the long way home and take it fast. Your engine will thank you for years to come. Thank you for years to come.